Hi guys, so Coach Madness here. First lesson, basics of striking. Welcome to the channel. Hope you guys have fun, hope you guys learn a lot. And obviously questions always welcome, always available. So it's fighting. Fighting is primal, man. Fighting is something humans have been doing since freaking Cain and Abel. You know, it's in our genes, it's who we are. But I will say this, you need to fight for the right reasons. So, over the centuries, fighting has evolved. Fighting has changed into so much more than just me punching another guy out. But that being said, in a fight, it needs to be primal. I need to put this thing to my target, put it to the chin, the nose. And the guy who does that the most and the best, that's the guy who's going to win the fight. But never underestimate the power of intelligence. I mean, standing at bars, guy throws a big shot, yeah, he can knock you out, but if you're more intelligent than him, you're better trained, better drilled, it's going to be a tough one, eh? Like, I can't see him walking out, but I digress. So let's look at the basic first fundamentals of striking. First and foremost, it's the way we stand. There's a few things that people kind of tend to forget and that they don't look at. And fighting has got a lot to do with physics and the way things work, the way movement works, the way your body works. I mean, we're biological creatures, but we defy physics. You know, we use physics 90% of the time. Whenever we walk, whenever we talk, it doesn't matter. So we need to keep that in mind, the mechanics of the human body. So let's get into it. How do I stand before I want to fight? This stance is bad. Obviously, it's the worst thing you can do. I cannot punch anybody there. I'm never ever going to just use my upper body. So let's look at the first thing is from stance. Now, this is a comfortable stance. I'm shoulder width and I'm facing forward. Now you'll notice every human in the world has got a middle line. And that middle line runs directly between your eyes all the way down to the floor. So from between your shoulders, this to this, that's your middle line. But when I'm fighting, that's the line I'm going to attack, first and foremost, and that's where I'm going to line myself up with. Not just with my opponent's line, but with my line in itself. So, all I want to do is I want to take my strong hand. So, the strong hand is your dominant side, whether you're writing with your right, that would normally be your dominant side, and whether you're writing with your left hand, that would be your dominant side. The dominant side you always want to put at the back. Of course, in the beginning, that's how we do it. Later on, as you evolve, as you grow, you want to be able to fight out of both stances. So, let's get to the basic, shoulder width, line down the middle. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take my middle, my dominant side, and I'm going to pull it straight back. I'm not going to go left, right, curve, nothing. I'm going to take my dominant leg, and I'm going to pull it straight back. Okay. Now you'll still see my hips are facing forward, my shoulders are facing forward. I'm a very square fighter at the moment. Now from here, what I want to do is I just want to turn my shoulder off. I'm not turning my hip. I'm not turning my hips out and my feet back towards my girlfriend. No. I want to fight my opponent. I want to fight his girlfriend. I want to fight my girlfriend. I want to be in line with him with my hips, because that's what's generating the force, and that's what's going, and that's the direction that I need to send the force. My hips generate the force. I cannot have my hips facing that way and trying to send the force that way. It's physically impossible for that to happen. I need to make sure my hips facing my opponent all the time, and my shoulder I line up with my front knee. Now what I want to do is I'm going to take my front foot and just slightly move it over onto my middle line. You see my middle line there, and I just move my other foot back out so that I stay shoulder width. My front foot is now on my opponent's middle line, and I'm going to take my left hand elbows pointing towards my toes, hands come up towards the head. Boom. Like I'm looking through a pair of binoculars. Don't want my elbows flaring because that's super bad. Leaves me open and I will not be able to generate power. I want to generate power in my hips. So, we'll go through that one more time. Shoulder width, middle of the line. Take my dominant side straight back. Not to the right, not to the left, not in a curve. Straight back. Boom. Hips facing forward. Hands come up, elbows to my toes. Just take my shoulder off the line. I move slightly off onto my opponent's middle line with my leading foot. The front leg, leading leg, always on my opponent's body line. Hands up. Okay, so that's your basic stance. Now, next thing to remember, this is a very important one, these two things, these hips, the right and the left hip, those are two guns. My arms, my hands, my legs, those are bullets. Now, if I want to strike, my bullets aren't loaded. I cannot strike now. This, I can't throw a bullet. It's not going to do any damage. I want to fire the bullet, and that comes out of the hip. So, once I turn, you'll see, when I'm throwing my jab, see what my hip's doing? It's moving forward. My hands twisting out, going straight. Okay. I'm not lifting my chin. That's too dangerous. I always want to tuck my chin away. I'm not going to lift my shoulders as much as what I'm just going to be like into turn. Just a little bit into my shoulder. Hands up. Now as soon as I jab, punch, this is my jab. See what my hip's doing? My hips drawing my hand forward and firing out. Chin is tucked away. You can't see my chin here. That is safe. Okay? And I put my hand straight back to my head. I do not want to be like a train, because that's going to leave me open on my left hand side. Right hand side is still up. And then come back. That's bad news. It takes a long time to do this. Fastest route between point A and B is a straight line. Straight line back. Okay, see the hip? Boom, comes back. So from this angle, same thing. Notice the hip, hand comes out. I'm turning my hand so that these two big knuckles can meet the target. Okay? And I'm driving it with my hip. There. And it always needs to be snappy. It's never going to be a push. Just drive it out, and from there bring it back. Now you'll notice what's happening to my hip. When this hip fires, the second hip is loaded. And I can just use that coming back momentum to throw the next punch. Whether it be straight, or a hook, or uppercut, it doesn't matter. We'll get to combos as time goes on. So as time goes on, we'll get into combos. So it doesn't really matter what I follow up with, but right now we're going to look at just two basic punches. We're going to look at the jab and the straight right. I've just shown that to you. It's so super simple. I never want to open up when I punch. I never want to pull back. I always want my punches to go from my head, fired from the gun, forward. Okay? So if I show you from here, hip. I'm not pulling my head back from here. The hips just firing. Hips just firing, and the hand flicks out. Boom. And it comes straight back. Boom. Boom. Now, what you call these two punches, it depends on the country you're in. It depends how you grew up. It depends on what sport you watch. I suppose the front hand is a jab. I've heard a lot of clubs and a lot of coaches call it a one. That's fine. Jab is always the hand that's in front. Now, normal boxing, the jab works a hell of a lot because it's to measure distance. It's the same with MMA. You use it to measure distance, but never underestimate the jab because this thing will knock you out. When I throw a jab, I'm still throwing to knock you out, even though it is to measure my distance, and we'll get to that in later classes. This, you can call a cross, you can call it a straight right, you can call it number two. It doesn't really matter. As long as you know the first punch that usually gets throat.